Hey, it's Pete with Backdraft Bikes. You've been thinking about doing a moto vlog? Let me show you how I got my gear set up. So I know at one time, not in the real distant past, I was trying to figure out the best combination for setting up my camera on my helmet and my voice. And I tried a lot of different things, spent a lot of different money, and I just didn't have good results. After all of that tried and true technology that's out there, it's just hard to find a fit for moto vlogging because you're on a bike, you're in the wind, you've got to overcome a lot of noise. What works? So I'm going to go through a couple key pieces of information today with you. First, I'm going to talk about the helmet setup with the microphone because the audio is obviously really important. The second thing I'm going to talk to you about is my camera. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the GoPros and the Osmos and why I decided to go with one over the other. And then third, I'm going to go over how to actually anchor the stuff down to get some good cinematic shots, if you will. And also how to take video when you're out and about. Maybe you stop for lunch or something. Is there any other technology that might help you out? So I'm going to go through those with you. Let's check them out. So glad you could join me for today's coffee talk. That's some strong coffee in there. All right, let me go through our equipment first. I've got it all laid out here on the table. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of talk to you about what I have going on first with the helmet. This is a Climb Trios Pro. This is a very expensive helmet, but when you say expensive, what is your deductible to the emergency room? How much money does it cost if you were to get injured? I think the helmet is like your most important piece of safety equipment because it doesn't take much for an injury to your head to really mess your life up. You know, again, spent 15 plus years in an ambulance. I understand injuries, been to a lot of motorcycle accidents, and the difference between not wearing a good helmet and not wearing any helmet at all, really big deal. So to me, I splurge on my helmet. It is my most important piece of safety gear. Now, that being said, I have a few other less expensive helmets like the HJC helmets I really enjoy. And I have those set up almost in exactly the same way, but I'm going to show you with this helmet because it's easy to see exactly how I have it set up. So the first things first, you have to figure out is how are you going to mount the camera to your helmet. Some people like to mount their cameras on the top of their helmet. You'll sometimes see them driving down the road like this. To me, that is just not a good view because anytime you get any glare from the sun, it's going to reflect into the lens off the top of the helmet. Besides for that, usually you'll see a piece of the helmet and you're up above driving aspect, if you will, well above the handlebars. Whereas if you're down lower, you'll actually see the handlebars and it feels kind of like you're riding the bike. So I go after that look. I've tried all the camera angles. I find the right in front of your chin mounted is the best. Also, I should mention that sometimes people put them on the side of their helmet and you're always going to see this jawbone in the shot. And again, it just doesn't make for good photography because you've got something that's very close to the camera. And if any light hits that, your camera's iris and auto exposure is going to adjust to that right away. So you're actually going to get your shots washed out pretty bad if you're riding in low light conditions. On the front of the helmet, again, I say this is the best place to mount it. But if you have an adventure helmet, it gets tricky because you've got a big open air spool. So it's hard to put the surface mount GoPro tabs right in the front because this gets in your way. There's no place to put it. So if you're going to use the standard GoPro, and I'm using GoPro just because everybody knows what GoPro is. If you're going to use one of those stick tabs, I often will mount it off to the side. And when I put this on, I'm going to make sure that I heat up the adhesive patch with a hair dryer or something to get it really tacky because I want this thing to stick. If you use a quality GoPro like brand mount and not one of the knockoffs and you heat that adhesive up good, that thing ain't coming off your helmet. The next thing I do, and I know this looks kind of cumbersome, but this works and it handles a lot of really aggressive riding and even bang ups, is a small RAM mount attached to the GoPro locking fitting. And this is on a 1-inch ball, as you can see. And this will clip on the helmet just like this. And then I can engage the lock, so that is not going to come undone. And that puts the camera right front and center of where I'm going to be shooting. Now, again, this mount here is a little bit cumbersome. It's a little large, but it allows for easy on-the-fly adjustments if you decide you want to try to take a better shot. It's also really forgiving. If it gets hit, it can be easily adjusted back. Your other option to side mounting the camera is something similar to this, and this is just a piece of plastic. You can buy these all over Amazon. What this allows is it allows to clip in to the side of the helmet on one of those GoPro clips, and then you can put your camera right on that. So essentially you're mounting it like this, and it does work. Here's the problem though. After you use these for a while, there's really small pieces of plastic that are actually holding your camera together, and those crack. I've been on several rides and stopped, and I've noticed my camera is way out of angle, and I'll look down and one of those little legs is just snapped off. So there's like literally a millimeter of plastic holding my $500 action camera on with all my footage. No bueno. So this setup here, I don't particularly care for those anymore. Not that I've had a couple close calls. There are several manufacturers out there now that are creating chin mounts. In fact, I think that's one of the brand names. I demoed one, and I'll put the link in the description, but it's a long strip, and it actually works really well. Now, some of the other brands that are out there right now are making helmet-specific mounts, and I've seen them for the climb and many of the other helmets, and they're between $40 and $50. Unfortunately, I reached out to both manufacturers I could find that make these, and they didn't even give me time of day or reply to my emails. So I'm not even gonna feature them in this video. There you go if you're watching. As far as the audio goes, this is the other important part. There is one brand of lavalier microphone that I have found that works really well in noise canceling, and also its frequency response is just perfect for riding. And that is the Giant Squid microphone. And again, I'll put one of the links in the description. None of these viewpoints here are endorsed by any of these manufacturers. So, please just take this for face value from a real world experience. GoPro requires a media mod to use with the new cameras, which is a larger cage that fits around the actual GoPro. With that, there is a 1/4 inch jack that you plug your microphone into. So what I have done is I have placed this lavalier microphone. I'm actually going to take it right out. Place this lavalier microphone in the helmet with a small piece of Velcro, and I Velcro it right here inside of my helmet. This lavalier 1/4 inch plug will then tuck up into my helmet and kind of stick out and then plug directly into the media mod. Now, Giant Squid and all the lavalier companies out there sell a really long cord. It's usually like 3 feet, 1 meter. So what I have to do is cut it because I can't have that much scrap wire hanging out in my helmet. I cut it and I solder it very carefully, and I use heat shrink with the adhesive inside of it to make it a waterproof connection. This shortens this up and allows me to be able to use it in my helmet directly, and that's using a GoPro with the media mod. The other option with the older GoPros is they sell a mic adapter that plugs in. And typically, I ran those for many years, and you'd have a Velcro piece sticking out here with a microphone plugged in, so you look like the $5 million man riding down the road. Again, it's not the greatest solution. Some people record their audio separately with like a digital voice recorder, and they plug the lavalier directly into that. I've tried it. It does work, but it's just another step that you have to take in editing. It also tends to be another piece of hardware that can break down, that can't get wet, that has to have the batteries charged. It's just a whole nother thing that you have to do. And on a motorcycle, you're looking for as simple as you can get and as lightweight and as few moving pieces as possible. So I used one for a couple of videos, just found it to be cumbersome. I found that the GoPro with the media mod processed the audio fine, and I used Final Cut Pro to edit all these videos, so I was able to tweak the settings quite a bit post recording. I'm not using this anymore, and I'll tell you the reason why. I switched from GoPro, and I think this is where we're gonna flip the video now to the second part, talking about cameras. I was a devoted GoPro user for eternity, but I ran into problems with some of the new GoPros overheating and locking up. I had problems anytime I used them when it was really, really hot and I used them extensively for a long period of time. They actually overheat and shut off. And that is a problem when you're doing demo rides or you're with a bike manufacturer and you're trying to get those shots. So I ended up actually having to buy additional GoPros so that I would have backup in case one had gotten too hot, because you couldn't cool them down in the dead of summer out on a racetrack. So that kind of bothered me. GoPros also are very expensive. They say that they're indestructible, but I have to tell you, if you're using a media mod or one of those media adapters, you no longer have a waterproof camera. So that kind of stinks. So if you're riding and it gets rain or you get splashed or whatever, you're literally putting your most important tool at risk, not only because of water exposure, but your footage could be ruined. It was hard. I really rode the GoPro train all the way from the original GoPro. Then I upgraded to the Hero 4s, and I went all the way up the line up until this past year with I think an 11 or a 12, and I had all of the infrastructure for them. But the media mods make the camera huge. You've got a big mic sticking out that's not supposed to get wet. You've removed the waterproof doors that keep the camera, you know, like a GoPro should be, kind of indestructible, and you just expose everything. So I took a leap of faith, and again, this is not paid, and I went to the DJI Osmo Action camera. I know you're probably like, what in the world? I, for work, do a lot of fire investigation, and I use drones. And I have to tell you, the DJI drones are just next level. They've really figured out the technology. They take excellent pictures, and they're very, very reliable. That being said, getting used to the whole DJI infrastructure, I took a leap and I bought one of these Osmo Pocket cameras. And all of my videos you see on my channel, when I'm either walking around a motorcycle talking about it, or I stop for lunch with Grandpa 5000, those are all shot on one of these Osmo Pockets. They're super small. So if you're at a store and you're holding it like this, it really doesn't look like much. It looks like you're just holding like a black lollipop of some sort. I don't know what to say. And it makes it easy to whip them out and take video without having this like ginormous setup where everybody knows you're filming. Because sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, right? That being said, I was extremely happy with the video quality that I got out of the original Osmo Pocket. And then this is the Osmo 2, and you're being filmed right now on an Osmo 3. I'm very happy with not only the stability and the nice, clear, crisp picture they provide. It's such a small form factor, but the form factor, you can stick them in your motorcycle jacket pocket and go off and they're ready to go as soon as you take them out, and they boot up in 2 seconds. That being said, I decided I wanted to check out the Osmo Actions. They have a lot of different improvements. I mean, they're very similar to a GoPro, but there are some subtle differences that I want to explain to you the reason why I like them. Number one, I like the fact that the lens cap is removable and easy to change. So if I were to scratch this even mid-trip, I can unscrew it and put another one on. On a GoPro, it's a little bit more involved. The other thing I like about these is their buttons are very tactile. Tactical? Maybe they are tactical. Maybe they will wake you up when you're sleeping at night. These things are very positive feeling. When you engage them, you know you turned it on because you can feel it click. They have the front-facing screen, just like the newer GoPros have. The back screen is also very nice. I think that the screens are better on these, and both of them are touch, which is super cool that you can touch the front of the camera to make an adjustment on the fly. The last GoPro rendition I had did not have a touchscreen on the front. The other thing that I really like about these, and again, this is just from a guy that uses these to really make a living, is I can use this camera with an audio solution without having to compromise the dust resistance, dirt resistance, and waterproofing. I can use it just the way the camera is intended very easily and capture high quality audio. Let me show you how I do that. The Osmo 3 comes with a wireless microphone. DJI also sells wireless microphones, but they're a little bit bigger in form factor. What I found when I was researching was that this microphone is Bluetooth and it will connect to these cameras. So what's cool about that is because the microphone is so small, I can easily clip it into my helmet. That's what it looks like. What's fantastic about this is that it uses magnets to secure it. If you go on Amazon, you can buy these magnets for like $10 a piece, the actual DJI magnets. What I've done is I've taken a little bit of silicone, I put it on the inside of my helmet, right about where I want my microphone to be. And then when I go to use the microphone in the helmet, I can use the magnet to clip it right in, and it's not going anywhere. I can buy these magnets and put one in each of my helmets for a fraction of the cost, much cheaper than using one of these lavaliers. The other thing that's cool about using a wireless microphone is I can set this camera up and I can go anywhere and still have the same audio, which is kind of cool if you set it up on your bike and you want to go talk to somebody at a roadside stand and still get the shot. You can have a conversation and it doesn't even look like you're recording them. Not that I would say go covert and all that jazz, but it's just less obtrusive. It also has a clip so I can secure it to my clothing, record, and life is good. I really like the fact that it has that magnetic option, and I'll show you where I mounted it in my helmet, because that puts the microphone outside of the elements. It's not exposed, it's protected by the envelope. The microphone itself, I'm told, is water resistant. Don't go swimming with it, but that's good enough for me. The camera itself stays in its shell and I'm not compromising anything. To me, that's a win-win situation. The battery life on these is super good. It's like 14 hours. It's longer than any day you're ever gonna ride on a bike if you were talking the entire day. It also has the ability to record itself right to the unit itself. So if your camera dies and you're trying to get some audio, or maybe you're not taking a shot and you want to get some audio, you can actually record directly to the microphone without having the cameras around, which is super cool. Going back to the Osmos and comparing these to the GoPros, I've had no overheating issues with them. The buttons feel really good in the hand, as I said before. They function almost exactly the same, and you have the quick tap on and off, but there's a couple other features that, to me, just completely seal the deal for DJI. And I wish I was getting paid by either one of these manufacturers to talk about their cameras, but I'm not. I paid full price for these, so please don't think this is a paid sponsorship of any sort. Here's the thing that sold it in my mind, the game-changing thing. GoPros use those clips, and those clips screw in to each camera with these knurled deals. You can only get them so tight, and you have to crank them up with a screwdriver. The ones DJI gives you are more of a wing nut, and I feel you can get a lot better leverage on them. I feel that they tighten up better. But the big thing with the GoPro is that those little legs are mounted in the bottom of the camera, and they flip down like little legs, and you have to wind it through. So anytime you want to change the battery or anything with the camera, you have to unscrew that whole thing, pull it off, flip the legs down, and then take the medium mod out and change the battery. It's just a pain in the butt. And you got to do that a lot if you're filming. DJI created a magnet attachment. I absolutely love this. It's a magnet base, and it clips in just like this. You just wiggle it a little bit and you'll hear it click right in, and it's actually locked in. Like there's two little nubs that completely lock this thing in. This is a game changer for moto vlogging because you have this mounted on your helmet all the time. In order to take the camera off, you have to unscrew things, blah, blah, blah. It's a pain in the butt. This camera literally clips on just like that. And it's rock solid. It's not going anywhere. And then when I stop somewhere and I want to take my camera off, all I have to do is reach down and just squeeze those two things together, and the camera pops right off. Put it back on. It's exactly the same. It's super duper duper easy to use. To me, that's the biggest feature out of this whole thing. Where it really comes to shine too is if you stop somewhere and you're using your camera and perhaps you have this mounted on your bike, which is the third part of the video I was going to talk about, mounting options. You can mount these on with a bar clip or anything else. But if you have this mounted on your bike and you stop somewhere, taking your camera off and on, you have to unscrew everything. These just clip on and off, and it's not going anywhere. And when I stop and I don't want my camera to get ripped off my bike, all I have to do is just reach over and pull it off and it's done. It's just such a good system, whoever thought of this. A very strong magnet and a positive engagement on these two little latches. Here's a close-up of the wing nut that DJI uses to beating the knurl grips. There's still a slot for a screwdriver, so you can crank it down if you want, but I've found no issues with this tightening like I did with the other ones, and I actually kind of prefer this style better now that I've used it for a while. Another thing I like about the DJI camera for moto vlogging is the ability to use a remote control. Now, this is DJI's remote control. It's like $79 on their site. I think they're back ordered right now because people have figured this out, how cool they are. You can control up to 16 cameras at the same time with this. So this is really, really useful if you have a camera mounted behind you on your luggage and you want to take some riding shots. You're always stuck with the dilemma is, do I start this thing and let it run the entire time I'm riding? Or do I pull over, start the camera, get back on the bike and start going then? It's a pain in the butt. I don't know about you, but most of my rides I had not done before. So I'm cruising along and I start to see something cool coming up. I don't want to have to turn around and stop and do all this jazz. I'd rather just be able to click the camera on. So this comes with a handlebar mount, two big buttons that mimic the same buttons you have on the camera itself. And one of them is power on and one of them is record. So if this camera is connected and everything's connected through Bluetooth, all I have to do is push the button and the camera will come on and start recording. It's fantastic. The other awesome thing about this is the display will tell me how much battery life I have left, which camera I'm connected to. If I've decided to connect multiple cameras, I can trigger them all at the same time, and also how much time I have left on my SD card. So again, for moto vlogging, it's really a game changer. I'm telling you guys, it is really a game changer. Finally, in the Action bundle that they sell, which I think is really worth the money, they give you a multi-socket charger, if you will. It's a battery case. And the case itself doesn't have any batteries built into it. So when I first got it, I thought maybe it was like a power bank. It relies on the DJI batteries, which by the way are very, very good as far as heat retention and working in cold temperatures. We only have winter right now and I've used these outside. I'm very impressed with not only the longevity of the batteries, I get almost an hour shooting, but in the cold weather, the GoPros, unless you're using the Enduros, really struggled. These batteries, this case will fit 3 at a time. They fit in quite snugly. They light up to tell you their charging status. If they light up red or orange, it gives you a little bit of an indication that they're low. You can put 3 of these in here, and when you close it, they're all secured because it's a magnetic closure again. When I want to charge this, USB-C on the very end, boom, I can put this in my luggage with the power pack and just plug it in as I'm riding, and I have 3 ready to go batteries at any time. Another interesting fact about this is if I have these 3 batteries and I'm in a jam, I can actually use this as a battery pack to charge my phone or anything else. So pretty cool. As long as I have those batteries in and they're charged up, it will work just fine as a power pack. I know I'm like gloating here, but I was on the GoPro side for so long, and with the constant freeze ups that I always had to reboot and pull the battery out of the camera, it was super annoying. With these DJIs, I've never had an instance where one locked up on me. Sure, sometimes the remote doesn't connect right off the bat, but I can live with that. What I don't like is after I've been driving for a half an hour through an area I'm never going to be back again in my life and find out that the camera froze and it's just sitting in this endless loop and now I have to take it apart on the side of the road. That's annoying. That's my setup. As far as mounting options go, I'll throw a link in the description on some of the clamps that I use. There are several options for attaching cameras to your bikes. I think the selfie stick is a really good option with a bar clamp because they're threaded like a tripod, and I can connect this and easily take shots. Now, I will tell you one thing, the longer you extend a selfie stick out, the more leverage that you're gonna have to pull it back with wind. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes you may even wanna offset it and then angle the camera to level it just to overcome the wind drag. The DJIs and the GoPros both use their own electronic stabilization, so they work really good for moto vlogging. One thing I do like about these cameras is they have a horizon lock on them, so I can really make the shot look super duper smooth and not worry about excessive cropping. With the GoPro's Hyper Smooth, I did notice that if I shot something, I would often lose a pretty good amount of the edges because of the software needing to crop to make it look like it's not shaking. They still do the same thing with these cameras, but it doesn't seem as aggressive. Last thing I'll just mention too on my moto vlogging setup is the fact that the editing is really the time consuming part. A lot of guys that don't do YouTube don't realize the amount of time it takes to edit the videos and make them look good and make them look interesting. Anybody can turn a camera on and just record their ride going down the road. The real Scientology of making a good video is being able to create a story with the clips that you shot. Oftentimes you'll film for an hour and you'll have a 20-minute clip that you're going to actually post because you have to chop things out. I use Final Cut Pro. I know Adobe is also really well, but I'm an Apple guy, I'm native to that. I know you're like, oh, I knew that guy was an Apple weirdo. But I like Final Cut Pro. It's easy to use. There's a lot of plugins available and it just works really, really well for editing videos on the fly. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I really do appreciate your subscriptions and your comments. If you have a moto vlogging setup and you think I missed something in this video, we all learn from each other. So please give me a comment down below and tell me what you're doing that works good for you. I always like to learn about new things. As always, and until next time, ride safe.